Responsibility, according to a dictionary, is the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or of having control over someone. Responsibility is a huge part of major American figures in our history. Throughout our country's numerous time periods, we have had some great people, but the best have a very big responsibility trait. These great men of our country all have led at some time or done something great. In order to do that, you need to be very responsible and heavily carry the trait of responsibility. If the great people that we have had throughout our history did not have responsibility, nothing we ever get done, and no one would ever be led. Responsibility is the key to being a great leader, and just being a great person in general. Responsibility allows you to deal with anything that comes your way, and allows you to control everything that you need to do. This is especially true for the great leaders of our country. They have a whole country or group to look after, and they are responsible for it. Without responsibility, everything would crumble into a horrible, broken down country. Responsibility is what makes you an American. Without responsibility, then you are really not American. So with responsibility, this makes you a true American. If you are an American, you are responsible for yourself, your fellow people, and also your country. There is one man that comes to mind when I think of responsibility in our country. That man is our first president, George Washington. George Washington was the first president of our country, and he was the first man fully responsible for our country. He had numerous responsibilities to take care. One of those responsibilities was making sure we won the Revolutionary War. He was the leader of the army, and it was his job to lead us into victory. He was not only responsible for the lives of those soldiers and winning the war, but making our whole country safe. If he was not responsible for this army and the numerous victories they had, then our whole country would be under British control, and everyone's lives would be different. After being the leader of the Continental Army, he became the leader of the country. He was now responsible for keeping everyone safe and making sure our country ran smoothly. He also needed to make sure everyone in our country was satisfied with the United States of America. Not only was George Washington a leader, he was also one of the founding fathers of this country. He was responsible for helping create this wonderful country we live in today. George Washington truly showed what it meant to be American through how responsible he was and how much he did for his country with all the responsibility he had. As we move through history, another man really stands out as a responsible American who really showed what it meant to be American. This man is the 16th president of our country, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln had responsibility as a very key trait. He was responsible for helping slaves and African Americans have more freedom and rights. He also was a key in winning the Civil War. Without his responsibility trait, he could not have done these great things for our country. Abraham Lincoln also had the responsibility of speaking in front of many people. He was one of the great speakers of his time and was responsible for giving some very powerful speeches. He was responsible for delivering the Gettysburg Address. By definition of responsibility, giving the Gettysburg Address definitely giving you the duty to deal with something. Lincoln also had major responsibility over southern United States. He was responsible for starting and carrying out the Reconstruction era. The Reconstruction era helped shape the southern United States. The Reconstruction era also helped out paving the way for African Americans and their freedom and rights. Abraham Lincoln felt he was responsible for the African Americans of this country, and he wanted to make sure they had better lives. Abraham Lincoln was one of the most responsible men this country has ever seen. He truly showed what it meant to be American. Not only did he show what it meant to be American, he also showed what it meant to be responsible. The amount of very important things that he has responsibility over is really miraculous. It is amazing how much of a responsible person he was and how much he showed what it meant to be an American. There were not only presidents who showed responsibility and what it meant to be American, but there were also civil rights activists. The civil rights activist who truly showed responsibility and what it meant to be American is W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois is responsible for some of the greatest civil rights work this country has ever seen. Starting out, he started the Niagara Movement, which was a group of African Americans met to discuss the ways to get better rights and treat them more equal. The first meeting was at Niagara Falls, and this is where W.E.B. Du Bois really started his responsibility of the civil rights movement. This showed how responsible he could be and how he could do great civil rights work and help advance the African American population of our country, which at the time was quite large. After the Niagara Movement and many other pieces of work, W.E.B. Du Bois helped start the National Association for the Advancement of Color People, also known as the NAACP. He was responsible for starting this amazing group, which still is going on today. Having the responsibility is definitely having responsibility of something important. This group did many great things for our country, and has helped W.E.B. Du Bois show what it truly means to be an American. W.E.B. Du Bois was also responsible for writing numerous pieces of literature to help African Americans have more rights. One of those pieces of work was The Crisis. The Crisis was the NAACP's official magazine. It showed the problems that African Americans had and the civil rights that they deserve. W.E.B. Du Bois was the one responsible for the widely popular magazine, and with his help, it really helped advocate African American rights. Through his responsibility, he showed what it truly meant to be an American. He showed that not all Americans are white. In fact, a good amount of Americans are black, and through his responsibility, he showed that they are American and they need rights too. The final man of this great country who showed what it truly meant to be American through his responsibility is the 26th president of our great country, Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt is one of the greatest presidents we've ever had. He was responsible for many great things in and outside our country. Before his presidency was the Spanish and American War. Theodore Roosevelt led troops into Cuba and won some key battles. Theodore Roosevelt felt a responsibility to be in the war and serve his country because during the Civil War, his dad did not. This truly showed what it meant to be American, because what is more American than stepping up for your country and making sure they win in whatever they do? Theodore Roosevelt bravely marched into Cuba and won the fight. He was responsible for many troops, and with his responsibility, they took over Cuba from Spanish reign. During his presidency, he was responsible for becoming a driving force in the progressive era. He really wanted to make sure the United States of America was a greater place. He also was responsible for making sure whatever the United States did, it was easier for them. The United States now held territories all over, including the Pacific, so they needed a quicker way to get there. So he was responsible for helping create the Panama Canal. Through all of his responsibility, he really showed what it meant to be an American. Theodore Roosevelt was truly an American, and he showed that with his responsibility. All of these fantastic, responsible Americans truly showed what it meant to be an American. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Theodore Roosevelt all had the key trait of responsibility. And with it, they did great things for this country and the people of this country. Through all these great acts, these great men showed what it truly meant to be an American. Without responsibility, these men could not do any of the great things that they have done. Responsibility allows you to do great things, and these four great men took advantage of that. Without them, our country would not be where it is today, and none of us would know what it truly means to be an American.